Well, hello everyone, welcome to the 34th of iOS tutorial. In this tutorial, we'll create an iPad app for the first time. And I tried to create the split view controller, which is kind of like a master and detail view for a simple iPad application. So let's move on. Here is the final app that we are going to create. This is an iPad view, and this is kind of like a master view, and this is the detail part. Whatever we have here, it would show the detail of this content. So for example, if I have some view here, I just add some number, and if I click on it, it would show the description, which is some explanation, whatever. For simplicity, I just add numbers, so you can add more details. And if I rotate the device, and we'll have a back button, and if I see, it would do the same thing. So let's create it. Okay, let's create a new project. Looks good. But this time, instead of single view application, we create a master detail application. It would create some files for us that are necessary for master detail. And I call it master details app. And make sure that it's on iPad. It's the first time that we're using iPad instead of iPhone. So let's go next and create the project for us. And let's go hit it, run, and see what exactly it has. It would be almost identical to the one that I showed you in demo, but I'm just going to enhance some parts and explain every detail so you could customize it for yourself. And this is exactly like the one that we saw, master detail, but here instead of adding numbers, it adds the date, the current date that we have, and if you click on it, it would show the details here. So let's go ahead and first look at the storyboard. If you look at the storyboard first, you would see it's a little bit complicated, but I'll make it more simple so you would understand a little bit better. So I separate the detail from master. So here is what we have right now. So first of all, if you want to start from scratch, you come to the object palette here, and then you can choose master detail or split view. This is the split view that you can drag and drop into your storyboard, and it would give you the same thing that we have here. Let me just drag and drop it here. See? Let's just move it here. It would give you the same thing that we have here. So it's a split view controller, and we have a view controller, which would be the detail, and we have a master, which shows some kind of table view, but it should not be necessarily a table view. You can just have some buttons here for detail and show for master, and show the detail in a view controller. I just delete this because we don't need it. We already have it in the storyboard, so let's just go ahead and delete everything that we have here and go back to the ones that we already it's already created for us. So if you look at this split view, we have this master, which has a navigation view controller first, and then the table view. So it shows a table view in a navigation controller in order to have a back button. And also we have a detail here, and it's also inside of the navigation controller because we would have the back button as well here. So the way that it connects these two detail to the master is from this row. So how we can connect it, if I click on this connection and go to the attribute inspector, you would see it gave it a name called the identifier show detail, and the segue type is show detail. So if I delete this, for example, if I want to create it from scratch, here is how we can create it one more time. You just have to zoom in and then control drag from this cell to this view controller. And then from the pop-up that it shows, you should choose show detail. So this is how we connect these two views. So it shows the detail of the view. So I would put it back, and this is a simple connection between the master and detail view. Okay, now let's look at the implementation of master and detail. I made it more simplified and more code standard, and here's my version versus default version. So let's go ahead and look at the master implementation. If we go to the master view controller, we can see that it extends UI table view controller, and it's the subclass of UI table view controller, and it makes sense because we have a table view here, so it needs to extend that file. And then in .m file, we have a setter for objects. And what are the objects? Objects are the items that we add in the array, like numbers that we have here. Every time that I press this plus button, it goes to this function, insert new object, and we have temporary count, and what it does, it just add 1 to self.count, which we have counter here, and it's type integer, and every time it adds 1 and make it as string and insert it to our array, and then it inserted to the table view. And index path is the index of table view, so it always added to index 0. That's why we see it at the top. When you add it, it shows at the top, so it's on the index 0. And that's all for this function. And when the view did load, we send this method, and all it does is doesn't clear the selection after view will appear. If we don't put this, it's by default yes. But when we say no, for example, if I'm on item number 6 and then rotate the device, if I look back, it's still on the 6. If I remove that line of code, it would show nothing. It doesn't show this. It doesn't highlight it. So that's why we put this line of code. Then we have prepare for segue. I explained prepare for segue in previous tutorial, and it only goes to this segue. If you see the show details, it should be identical to this name. If I go look at the details, it's show detail. Yes, and then it says if this identifier is equal to show details, and go ahead and initialize our detail view controller and set the item detail item. And what do we set it? We set it as the object with the index path row. And then we add the back button we have here. If I one more time, see, this is the back button. We set that back button here. And at the end, we have a very simple UI table view, delegate, and data source. It says at first how many sections we have in table view. Of course, we have only one section, so we pass 1. Then how many rows we have. It's based on the objects that we have. Right now we have 10, 11, and 12 basically, because it starts from 0. And then we set the cell item. We have all of these UI table view controller, delegate, and data source in its tutorial. You can look at it. It's very simple. That's all about the master view controller. Now let's look at the detail view controller. Let's look at the .h file. It has one public file, which is detail item, and this is the property that we set in our master view controller. Here we set this property, which is the description. So we have it public here. And then if you look at the implementation, it's very simple. it goes to view did load, and all view did load is if it's not nil, it sets our label, which is inside of the master view controller. We have a no, it's inside of detail view controller. We have a label here, and it sets this label to detail item. That's all for the detail view controller. And then at the end, we have to go to this file and set the class to detail view controller, because we created this file. And for the master, we go and set the master view controller. Whatever table view that we create, we should select it here as well. That's all for split view and master and detail for iPad.